250 children die every day from cancer across the globe. After accidents, cancer is the leading cause of death in children in developed countries. And yet, there are only 7 drugs approved for use in pediatric cancer versus over 200 for adults. Until now.
My friend Cesar and I founded Oncoheroes Biosciences after both of our families were deeply affected by child cancer. He lost his daughter to metastatic cancer at the age of 4, and my son is a brain cancer survivor dealing with a lot of side effects because of the toxicity of the treatments that he got. We realized that despite of the efforts in academic research, there was a lack of leadership on the industry, so we decided to launch Oncoheroes Biosciences, which is the only one company in the world 100% focused on developing new drugs for pediatric cancer. At Oncoheroes, we have 3 potential new drugs to treat up to 8 different types of pediatric cancers. The FDA allowed us last September to open 2 trials, but the only thing that prevents us right now to go ahead is funding.
Allie is my daughter, who I always described as loving, kind, and feisty. She was diagnosed at age 11 with alveolar rhabdomyosarcoma. She was stage 4 at diagnosis. And over the 5 years, she relapsed 6 times. She passed away at age 16. On November 13th, 2023. Allie and I met Oncoheroes a couple of years ago, and we felt a pretty strong connection with them. Allie and I both felt that Oncoheroes will really be the company that develops these cancer trials that these kids need. So I made a promise to continue her fight, make her proud for all the kids that come after her.
We need your help to give kids a cancer-free future. We can do this together.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening and good night, everyone all over the world. Today is the International Childhood Cancer Day. And today, all over the world, we are united for one purpose: to fight childhood cancer, to save one more life, and to unite against this catastrophic disease, and to ease the pain for one more child. My name is Gevorg Tamamian. I'm pediatric oncologist. I'm the head of Pediatric Cancer and Blood Disorder Center of Armenia, and I'm the editor-in-chief of Oncodaily. Now in Japan, it's 10 a.m. In Armenia, it's 5 a.m. and it's just getting the morning out. Europe and Africa are sleeping. In the United States, it's a daytime. But wherever we are, we want, all of us, we want to conquer pediatric cancer. All of us have different problems all over the world. And all the kids who are getting now diagnosed with cancers face different challenges. But one thing unites us, and that all of us, we want kids to survive. And we are here to help each other. Today, due to advancements in the science and medicine over the last, I would say, 5 decades, there was this huge advancements, and nowadays in developed world, around 85% of kids with cancer, they survive. But in developing world, the situation is different, and from 0 up to 60% of kids can survive. And today, when we at the Oncodaily, when we were thinking to do this Oncothon, the global Oncothon, were thinking on what to focus. I was reading a book recently, and it was saying that every day do something which you are afraid of. When we were starting this global Oncothon, which is going to be 24 hours, and it's going to be live streamed nowadays on social media uh, all over the world. And we were thinking on what to focus. And I'm going to tell you a short story. Around 8 months ago, we decided to start this Oncodaily, a global platform which would become a voice of oncology and would be accessible for everyone all over the globe. At that time, we thought it's going to be challenging, but we did it, and it really became one of the major outlets. And while I was interviewing an incredible woman, Dean Crow, the president of Raleigh Foundation, she suggested me to contact and to interview two amazing people who were behind the Oncoheroes Biosciences, a drug developing company which is dedicated exclusively to pediatric cancer drug development. So they are 100% focused on pediatric cancer development. While I was talking about these challenges between the developed and developing world that people are facing, but one thing I think also is common, that pediatric drugs are not developed so intensively as it is done in adult cancers. So there we have a challenge. That's why we thought, I mean, we certainly should interview them. And while we were talking with them, we said, let's do the global Oncothon dedicated to this cause, to the idea that we should support the pediatric cancer drug development. And this great company, established by two parents, we thought it's going to be really the case where we should support their work. And just in the video, you saw about the work they were doing. So we, at this time also, we were not afraid to do this. I mean, we were afraid certainly that it's going to be global. It's going to be, I mean, how we are going to make it. And we were afraid of doing this. But we said, as I said in the book, it's written, every day do something which we are afraid of. So we were afraid of that. It's going to be difficult, but we did it and we started it. And the global Oncothon now is a reality. Today we will be hosting around 100 people from all over the world. We will be hosting renowned oncologists from different countries who will share their problems and ideas from different settings. We will be hosting amazing survivors and their very strong families who will share their stories. We will host here international organizations and companies and foundations who will talk about their inspiring work and in different areas of pediatric cancer and in different geographic locations. So that's going to be as I mentioned, that's going to be for 24 hours. So please be with us. Today's our goal, as I mentioned, I mean, and from the name, it's visible that the Oncothon is not just raising awareness, which is the most important part of this event, but also we are going to raise funds to support the great work the Oncoheroes is doing, and the founders and the scientists and doctors involved in the work will talk about this later. And to start the Oncothon, I will make a challenge, and I hope it's gonna be viral also for the other countries. So our Armenian team decided to start the Oncothon, and with the small donation, I would say, with our Armenian drum, 1 million Armenian drum, we will donate for the Oncothon, and I hope that this will be viral, as I mentioned, and other countries with their own currencies will be able to raise at least $1 million with their currencies. So let the first global Oncothon begin. God with us, and I'm sure by the end of the day we'll be having a huge success. And without further ado, I'm going to invite two incredible people here. Ricardo Garcia, amazing person who is behind this great initiative, Oncoheroes Biosciences. And Ricardo originally is from Spain, currently is living in the United States. He is the dedicated father of Richie, first of all, and who is a brave medulloblastoma survivor. And alongside with him, we have Fernando Goldstein from Brazil, father of Federico, a resilient fighter currently battling relapsed medulloblastoma. And together they will share their unique insights and experiences in caring for a child with cancer, offering a deep dive into realities, challenges, and triumphs that come with this daunting role. Welcome to the first Global Oncothon.
Oh, thank you so much, Gabor. Good night, Fernando. Good night, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for attending the Oncothon. This is very exciting, as you can imagine, for a lot of people, especially for me and for everyone at Oncoheroes. So we really want to take this opportunity to thank you so much, Oncodaily and Gabor and everyone in your team for putting this in such a short period of time. And thank you so much for your first contribution. This is really exciting. Fernando, I can't wait to hear more about yourself and your story.
Well, thank you. I'm honored to be here. Thank you for the introduction, Gabor. As Gabor mentioned, my son is battling against medulloblastoma. He has a relapsed medulloblastoma. We have been fighting for 8 years already. And we, as many of people from our audience might know, relapsed medulloblastoma today in the world is like a death sentence. So the survival rate is practically zero. And 2.5 years ago, we start doing something, as Gavor mentioned as well, and Ricardo in the video, there is no treatments enough for kids. So we start initiatives that are developing new treatments for relapsed medulloblastoma, and by coincidence, we just made the protocol in the FDA of our two new immunotherapy treatment specific for medulloblastoma.
Well, so I think I would love to hear more information about this. So, well, I don't want to just expend some of my time about myself. So you mentioned, Gabor, I moved to Boston. Well, I'm coming from another world. I'm originally, my background is IT. I've been working on building companies on the IT sector for many years. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I set up my own company when I was really, really young. I was a teenager indeed. And then when I was launching I'm originally from Spain, as everybody can notice in my accent. My son was diagnosed in 2011 with a high-risk medulloblastoma. We were living in Spain. And then after 3 months there, things were getting very, very complicated. So prognosis was very bad. And we decided to go for somewhere else, sorry. And we were looking for a group of experts. So we've got the opportunity to connect with a great team at Dana-Farber Cancer Institute in Boston, and they encouraged us to come to the US so that Richie could get another approach, another type of treatment. So we did it. We came to the US with luggage, and my son, my wife, my daughter, myself. We didn't know what was going to happen, and with a lot of hope, and here we are. Some years later, we're still in Boston. We decided to remain here. Richie is a teenager, 18 years old boy, but probably, by the way, it's going to be the next speaker in the next session, so I'm very excited. And yet, yeah, life is not easy for patients and survivors, as probably Fernando, you know. And that was kind of more or less the inspiration for me to move forward and declare war to pediatric cancer. I set up a foundation. This is the first thing I did it, the Richie Child Cancer Foundation, and a lot about the needs of developing new drugs. And I didn't know anything about pediatric cancer. I didn't know that by then only 4 drugs are approved, specifically for pediatric cancer in 2012. And that traumatized me. You know, it was I couldn't believe it. So I had a lot of opportunities to speak with a lot of people, and I met with pharma industries. I met with pediatric oncologists, other partners, foundations, everywhere. I was everywhere, talking to everyone, trying to understand why there were only 4 drugs approved specifically for pediatric cancer. And then I realized that we're just treating kids today still with drugs that were developed more than 10, 20 years ago. And in some cases, you know, those drugs were developed for adult indication, and the only thing we're doing is adjusting the doses. And I didn't know that in some cases, 50% of the kids are diagnosed with cancer are in trials because there's no other option for them. And then it was very, very traumatic to hear that there were no one from the industry interested in to move forward the needle and develop new drugs for pediatric cancer. And then that was kind of just the decision point. And then I thought, we need to do something else. We need to set up an entity. We need to just be, and we need to just take some kind of leadership from the industry side. So I think I wish there will be more companies out there interested in developing drugs for pediatric cancer. We will need more than just one only focus on this.
Thank you, Ricardo and Fernando, for your stories and for your initiatives, and that you found the strengths to continue your battle in this field as well. And Ricardo launched the foundation and the biotech, and Fernando the initiative. What are the challenges you are facing daily? The most significant one, the challenges regarding your initiatives right now, which you would like to mention.
May I, Ricardo?
Yeah,
Yes.
Of course, all yours.
First, I'd like to congratulate Ricardo and Oncoheroes. Really, the job they are doing, it's wonderful. But we kind of made the same path, Ricardo, by coincidence, because I am in Brazil, and when my son was diagnosed, I flew to Boston, and I treated him in Boston. But then I didn't stay in Brazil. I moved back to. I didn't stay in Boston. I moved back to Brazil. When my son relapsed, and I said that this is a terrible for medulloblastoma. I knew that something else must be done, because there is no treatment available for relapsed medulloblastoma. And then we started to talk with some doctors, and I started with a donation, and I was very impacted. Not a big amount of money can do for pediatric cancers, because, for example, just to give an example, the treatment that my son and Ricardo's son did, and the kids are doing today in all over the world, this treatment is from the 80s, from the late 80s. So it's a very toxic treatment. And many children perish; they don't survive. So that's why I started to this initiative, and we are progressing very well. And I think the main challenge is always funds. So we are always trying to raise funds to fund the clinical trials. Exactly what Oncoheroes is doing with this event.
Yeah, I would say, I think I echo your words. Well, the main challenge is money. It's funding. And this is precisely what we are doing, things like Oncothon and some other initiatives that we're just taking. And because, well, at the end of the day, what is very frustrating is to see that, you could really advance development of drugs for pediatric cancer with a tiny fraction of what the money is required for adult indication. And this is the worst part, right? So in our case, we managed to build a portfolio with 3 clinic-ready compounds with the potential to treat up to 8 different types of pediatric cancer, okay? We raised less than $13 million to build this portfolio. So I don't think there is a way that a company developing drugs for adult indication could build a portfolio with 3 clinic-ready drugs with less than, I don't know, maybe dozens of millions of dollars, right? So I think this is one of the main messages I want to just send to the audience. It's not really so expensive to develop drugs for pediatric cancer. In fact, it's very efficient. But unfortunately, there is no way to, that's kind of more or less one of the main challenges. So I think providing more funds for developing drugs for pediatric cancer.
Thank you very much. One thing I think, at least my suggestion would be to also focus on, it's not just, in my opinion, about the money, but rather, there are a lot of money all over the world. And pediatric cancer is one of the things, as like pediatric cancer field, which is close to people's heart. I think one thing is we're lacking is this public awareness. So if we are able to raise awareness and to be persistent in our goals and to keep the positive view that we are certainly going to get there. And about today's Oncothon also, I'm very positive that by the end of the day, we are going to have a huge success. I think if we combine these 3 P's, public awareness, persistence, and positivity, that we are going to get it there, I'm sure we will have a success. I know it's and from your point of view, we need to be very fast. We cannot wait because children cannot wait. That's the most important. That's why I think every day we need to push much forward this initiative. And really, thank you so much for your initiatives, for your strengths, and for pushing this forward every day. You were very humble on sharing the very small challenges, I'm sure, because besides battling the cancer, you are fighting the energy in yourself to do these great things for the other kids. The drugs which are going to develop, they're going to be for everyone.
Yes.
In developed or developing world. It doesn't matter where the kids live. Of course, there are different realities, and some kids might have access, some not. We will talk about this later. But when you get the things done, when you bring more drugs, which are much better, which certainly our kids deserve better treatments. Certainly, we need to have much better things what we have now. And yes, as it was mentioned at the bottom, in honor of Ali and other fighters and other heroes, we need to continue this fight and we need to get there. Just quickly, I would like to ask you also to share some of your personal story from your personal stories, which you would like to share today. Just some small moments from your this journey against cancer.
Well, Fernando, you want to go first?
No, you can go, Rich.
Well, I would say I could write a book, to be honest. So I would love to share a lot of advices to everyone that is watching us right now. But I would say one of the most important ones is just enjoy, the moment. right? Because things can change in 1 second, as it happens to me, to Fernando, and to many other parents out there. We had, probably Fernando, you had a normal life, right? You had your family, you had your work, your projects, your future, your dreams. And all of a sudden, you was told that, okay, your son has one of the most aggressive brain cancer. So we were never prepared for where we were going to be living, which is worse than going to hell, I can tell you. So my message is really, enjoy the moment, take distance from everything that is happening every day, because there's a lot of dads and moms, and there's a lot of kids battling for their life, and this is really serious, right? So and especially if you can, of course, for the ones that are listening today, get educated on the truth about child cancer and the challenges. And then by knowing everything that you're going to learn probably with these sessions, you realize that we can really move forward the needle and develop new drugs if we're working together. So that's kind of more or less my message.
Yeah, I think I can make your words my words, Richie. I think I'm thinking really in writing a book, because it's unspeakable what we go through, or what we have been going through in the last 8 years with our son. So it's. But I give a message. I will give a message. Your message was more general, to enjoy life because bad things can happen. I will narrow down a little bit my message, and I will try to pass a message for the parents that have kids with cancer. I think we can never give up. I think we have to fight. We have to try to find solutions. We have to have second opinions. We have to inform ourselves, and we have to fight. And of course, we have to be positive also. We have to. Positiveness is a very important thing. I am a cancer survivor myself. I have a sarcoma 20 years ago, and now I'm facing this with my kid, which is much worse than having cancer. That what happened to me with my kid is much worse, of course, because I could switch place with him, of course. I think every father would do that, but I think we have to fight, and we didn't have the medicine. The medicine didn't offer us a solution for Federico, and then we are trying to move the needle as we speak, as you said, Ricardo, and of course we are going to help Federico and thousands of other kids around the world.
Thank you so much, Ricardo and Federico. Thank you very much, as I mentioned, first of all, for your great strengths, for pushing the things forward for everyone, for your fight. And as we started today, the International Childhood Cancer Day, by this great initiative by the Global Oncothon to support this wonderful organization and its mission, Oncoheroes Biosciences. Let's also honor all the people right now who are, as Federico mentioned, all the little heroes who are in the fight right now, their families. Let's honor today all the healthcare professionals all over the world, starting from China, Japan, ending in the San Francisco, on the other side of the world. So this is a huge fight, and we need to be united, all of us, against this catastrophic disease. And I'm again very positive. By the end of the day, we'll have a huge success, and let's do it all together. And again, I would like to challenge the people from all over the world to donate and to join our global Oncothon. And I hope from every country we will raise at least 1 million with their currencies. I'm sure in some countries this is going to be small amount, some countries big, but if the countries, for these countries it's a big amount, it means these countries have enough means. So that's why I think it's a fair distribution. If from every country we are able to raise at least 1 million with their currencies, let's do it, and let's continue our fight, and let's continue our global Oncothon. Thank you very much again, and God with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
250 children die every day from cancer across the globe. After accidents, cancer is the leading cause of death in children in developed countries. And yet, there are only 7 drugs approved for use in pediatric cancer versus over 200 for adults. Until now.
My friend Cesar and I founded Oncoheroes Biosciences after both of our families were deeply affected by child cancer. He lost his daughter to metastatic cancer at the age of 4, and my son is a brain cancer survivor dealing with a lot of side effects because of the toxicity of the treatments that he got. We realized that despite of the efforts in academic research, there was a lack of leadership on the industry, so we decided to launch Oncoheroes Biosciences, which is the only one company in the world 100% focused on developing new drugs for pediatric cancer. At Oncoheroes, we have 3 potential new drugs to treat up to 8 different types of pediatric cancers. The FDA allowed us last September to open 2 trials, but the only thing that prevents us right now to go ahead is funding.
Allie is my daughter, who I always described as loving, kind, and feisty. She was diagnosed at age 11 with alveolar rhabdomyosarcoma. She was stage 4 at diagnosis. And over the 5 years, she relapsed 6 times. She passed away at age 16. On November 13th, 2023. Allie and I met Oncoheroes a couple of years ago, and we felt a pretty strong connection with them. Allie and I both felt that Oncoheroes will really be the company that develops these cancer trials that these kids need. So I made a promise to continue her fight, make her proud for all the kids that come after her.
We need your help to give kids a cancer-free future. We can do this together. Well, welcome again to a new session of the first ever Oncothon brought by Oncodaily. Oncodaily is a media specialized outlet in oncology. We're streaming 24 hours a day on several platforms, LinkedIn, X, formerly Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Just to remind everyone that every year more than 400,000 kids are diagnosed worldwide of cancer. We're talking about kids between 0 and 19 years old, while we're losing more than 90,000. So I would say I'm very excited tonight because I want to introduce our host for the next session. His name is Derek. Derek is a very special person that I met probably 12 years ago when I moved to the US, and then pursuing treatment for my son Richie, which is, by the way, is going to be also joining the session. I remember that I met Derek at Cap Hanshen. This is a camp that is in Maine, in the north in New England. And a camp that was dedicated for families and patients and survivors with cancer. So it was a very interesting experience meeting Derek, who was a volunteer there. You were 16, by the way. Good night, Derek. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, thanks for having me. Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you. I think I remember you was probably 16, right? And you impacted me and my family, Richie, my wife, and everyone, because you had such an energy and connection with the patients and with the kids and all the teenagers. So we've been in contact for a lot of years, and then some months ago we were connected. Maybe you can explain a little bit more why, and then I can let you just guide the session from here, and then I'll step aside. This is your session. You're going to be interviewing two survivors, and I hope you will enjoy the conversation. So it's all yours, okay?
Thank you so much, Ricardo. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, you can introduce yourself, by the way. I think you're more than just Derek.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Well, hi, everyone. My name is Derek Lynch. I'm a member of the team at the Ritchie Childhood Cancer Foundation. I also work at Dana-Farber Cancer Institute in Boston. I've been working with pediatric cancer patients for about 10 years, as Ricardo mentioned. And I'm very excited to be here today with two incredible pediatric cancer survivors and really just have a conversation about their experiences and the journey that they've both been on. So I'd love to talk a little bit about each of the incredible young men that'll be joining us. I think they're coming on with us right now. Hi, Richie. Hi, Albert. How are you guys?
Good.
Hey, Derek. Hey, Richie. Hey, everyone.
Hey, nice to meet you.
Thank you very much for organizing this. And
good night, Albert. Good night, son.
Yeah, thank you both so much for being here. And if it's okay with you guys, I just wanted to read a little bit about each of your stories just to kind of let everyone know, who you are, and then we can kind of have a conversation if it's good with you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
Awesome. So, as I mentioned, we have Albert and Richie joining us. So, Albert is a Hodgkin's lymphoma survivor who was born in Armenia. In 2001, when Albert was in the 2nd grade, he was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma. Albert, correct me if any of this is wrong. But at the outset of his symptoms, which included swelling, he was living outside the capital, and local doctors in his town initially mistook his condition for an allergy. However, after 2 to 3 weeks with no improvement, Albert was referred to a specialist in Armenia's capital, and there they had a biopsy, which led to the confirmation of his diagnosis. Albert underwent chemotherapy and traveled to Moscow for a PET scan, which indicated the need for radiotherapy. And following his treatments, Albert was under supervision for 6 years and was declared cancer-free. He does experience mild side effects from his treatment, but the most significant being thyroid dysfunction. But right now he's a senior at Hartford University pursuing a degree in social sciences. And he plans to further his education in China. Is that right, Albert?
Everything is correct. Besides, I'm studying at Trinity College in Hartford. But everything else is correct.
Trinity College in Hartford. Thank you for letting me know. Awesome. And I also want to introduce Richie. Hi, Richie. Good to see you. Richie, on November 29th, 2011, Richie is originally from Spain, and he was diagnosed with high-risk medulloblastoma, which is a highly aggressive childhood brain tumor. So his family did make the life-saving decision to relocate to the United States for treatment. They currently reside in the greater Boston area. Richie, I know you'll correct me on the numbers if I'm wrong. Richie has undergone 26 surgeries.
27.
27 surgeries. Wow. Radiation and chemotherapy treatments. Richie is now 18. He continues to cope with the list of side effects resulting from his treatment, and he is the inspiration for the Ritchie Childhood Cancer Foundation. Did I get everything right, Richie?
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you both so much for being here. And if it's okay with you guys, I have a couple questions just to kind of ask about your experiences. So I wanted to start with Albert. And Albert, I was wondering if you could share what went through your mind when you were first diagnosed, especially since you were misdiagnosed originally, right?
Mhm. Mhm. Well, I was just like 9 years old when
Yeah.
I was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma. So to be honest, I didn't really understand like what's going on.
Right.
But like, being from like a town and then getting the chance to go to Yerevan, which is the capital of Armenia, like an urban place for treatment, it was like a whole new experience. The city life, the people, everything was so different from what I was used to. So kind of the first experience, to be honest, frankly speaking, was kind of positive. You got to like
Yeah.
experience the urban life. You see all these like big supermarkets, all these big shops, and as a kid, it's something like attractive for you. And I didn't understand back then that I was initially misdiagnosed in my hometown, and like I only understood it later that actually these 2-3 weeks in certain cases can be actually vital, and that made me understand the importance of like improving the access to healthcare in the regions as well, the importance of equal development, not only focusing on the capital, but also like more equal development for the country. That was pretty much my experience. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing. And, definitely what you said about being at such a young age. Of course, all of the change must have been a lot to, take in all at once. And Richie, that's kind of similar to your experience, right? I mean, you were at a young age. Do you want to speak
Hmm.
to what it felt like when you were first diagnosed?
Yeah, I was diagnosed at the age of 5, 6. Um, and so I dream the symptoms for me were ongoing. I was sick every month, like 2 times, and then every time I was sick, it lasted for 2 weeks. So basically, I was always sick. And so yeah, going to the hospital and kind of coming up to that diagnosis took a long time. After one day, one doctor chose to do an MRI, and that's when I was diagnosed. And yeah, the next thing I knew, I was going into a room, um, and then getting my head shaved. Didn't know exactly what was going on. Um, and then from there, everything just started rolling, and I kind of just went with it and tried to make the best of it. It wasn't, I think, until a month passed or a couple of weeks that I actually noticed that I was in the hospital for such reasons.
Right, right. I'm sure that like Albert had said, right, there's so many different things going on all at the same time and at
Hmm.
such a young age too. And uh, I know that both of you have undergone such extensive treatment, and I guess maybe I'll start with Albert on this question as well. But um, Albert, how did your experience being on treatment? How did it shape your perspective on life? How did it shape your interest in social sciences? How did it shape who you are today?
Well, going through like medical treatment made me see like how important it is for different parts of society to work together. Like think of it as like a team, right? You've got the government, you've got the community organizations like the civil society, the charity funds. I mean, you've got the professionals, the doctors, and to organize an effective kind of treatment for people, you need a really good network. You need a really good cooperation among these different actors. So I think this experience kind of made me realize the importance of interconnectedness among these different actors, not only for like healthcare, but all other aspects in human life that we encounter. It made me realize the importance of this interconnectedness. But another impact that like kind of this treatment had on me was the socialization aspect, right? When you are like in a hospital, you are surrounded by doctors who have studied like 15, 20 years, even more in their life. And like they might be 60, 70 years old, and they might still go for conferences in different parts of the world. So it is pretty much an educational environment. And interacting with these people, learning about their achievements kind of inspires you to strive for excellence in some sense. When you have like bachelor's degree, master's degree, PhD, and in addition to that, you just keep like studying and to learn more and more, it's inspirational. So I believe that kind of encouraged me as well to strive for excellence, to use every possible opportunity to educate myself.
That's great. That's an amazing, what an amazing perspective and way to take your experience right into inspiration. No, and Richie, I wonder, how you feel. Do you feel similarly? You 27 surgeries. What,
Mhm.
how has that shifted your perspective on life, on what on everything?
Well, I think one of the things that I learned while I was in treatment, and I still live to that standard today, is live every day to the fullest. Take all the opportunities that you have in a day, because you never know when those opportunities are going to show up, and you never know when life will turn around. Um, so, and then in addition to that, in order to live life to the fullest, I always have a lot of projects going on. For me, there's not a moment that can be free throughout the day, and that's because of living life to the fullest.
That's great. Yeah, maybe you can both speak to the projects that, I mean, Albert, I know that you're in school. Richie, I know that you're finishing up school, and I know you always have a lot of projects going on. So maybe each of you can speak to those interests that you have. I mean, Richie, do you want to speak to some of the projects that you work on that help you stay positive and keep fighting?
Yeah. So I am a well, I like to call myself a bodybuilder. I've been doing it for 4 years. Um, and that's just the mentality of bodybuilding. Everything it teaches you about how to deal with life. Um, and then also being able to eat way more than a normal person could. That's just a bonus. And then I do abstract painting. Abstract painting or painting helped me fight through my treatment, and I continue that. Then I'm also interested in the environment and protecting it. And though that has been hard to do because there's not so many outlets, I'm hoping that through college I'll be able to focus more on that. Um, and then regarding the cancer community, um, recently the Ritchie House was opened. The Ritchie House is a place for all cancer survivors to come and have a place where they feel like they have a community. And so I've been organizing the activities and making sure that everything works smoothly along with Derek.
Yeah, absolutely. Building a community. Oh, look at those pictures of the Ritchie house. Yeah, a community is so important. Did you find that as well, Albert? Like the importance of community and of different interests and staying positive.
Absolutely, yeah. You need to surround yourself with people with different interests
Mm.
to make life more interesting. I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And I wonder too, Albert. I know that you mentioned, you had to travel to different cities, different countries for your treatment. I know Richie, you traveled to a different country as well. So I'm wondering. I know that you're interested in pursuing your education in China. Is that right? I wonder if you
Yeah,
can speak
correct.
to how those experiences kind of influence your decision there.
Well, to get the PET tomography, I think it's called PET tomography. Unfortunately, at that moment in 2010 or 11, PET tomography was not something available in Armenia. So we had to travel to Russia to get to Moscow to get the PET tomography thing. Yes, so obviously that's a good one of the good aspects when I told the experience of like me being from like a small town and going to the capital, and then it's like the same logic, right? Going to another country, seeing Moscow on a bigger scale, even further urban, even further like bigger supermarkets. Yeah, so in that sense, like seeing, exposing yourself to new ways of living, different lifestyles, it definitely enriches your value system, your perspectives on the world. And yeah, I'm currently a senior, double majoring in political science and Eurasian studies at Trinity College in Hartford, Connecticut. And I got into a program called Schwarzman Scholars, and I'm one of the 150 students to do masters in management science in global affairs at Tsinghua University in China. And again, the whole idea is to expose yourself to new perspectives, try to learn the other part of the coin, the other part of the story, and develop a more robust understanding of how like systems work.
Wow. So both of you, it's very impressive the way that you've just built such incredible interest and passions and careers and futures out of your experiences. I mean, really, you should both be very proud of all that you've done. Um, I do have a couple other questions, if that's okay with you guys. I know we have a couple more minutes together, but um, I'm wondering if both of you can, you know, share some advice, because I know that there are people on this call who are survivors themselves, their children are survivors, or they're supporters of the community. I wonder if each of you could share some advice that you might give to others while they're going through treatment, or things to think about. I don't know if maybe Richie, you want to go first?
Yeah. For me, I would say find out what you like, what your passion is, and pursue that passion. No matter what. There's obviously gonna be some up days, some down days, but always just keep moving forward. And that's something that has helped me through fighting through cancer, but also depression. And that would be the gym for me. So yeah, just choose your passion and keep on going.
Definitely. Yeah. What are your thoughts, Albert? Do you have some advice that you
Yeah,
might offer?
definitely. I definitely agree with you. I would just add that, like, in general, life is overwhelming and it's full of challenges, but that's the whole beauty of like life, right? In your comfort zone, you never achieve growth, you never achieve progress. You always achieve progress when you are challenged. So think of these challenges as an opportunity for growth, to develop new networks, to meet new people, to learn about new stuff, to develop your perspective on different issues, and yeah, use this opportunity to just achieve personal growth in whatever way you can. And of course, even though it is difficult, but I believe we can still work to make it fun. I remember, for example, sometimes I would do like night duty visits with my doctors. I would like visit with them, accompany them to other like patients to see, and I would act as if I'm like a doctor, and like it was kind of a game. I was like a child, so obviously you can make it like fun, even though it's challenging, and everyone experiences these challenges differently. But I believe we can make this fun experience and an opportunity for personal growth.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, I hear you both speaking a lot about finding hope and finding joy in difficult times, right? Finding moments of hope. That's sounds like it's been very important to both of you. Um, and I do want to hear a little bit, as you both look to the future. I mean, you've both already talked so much about the incredible things that you are accomplishing, that you want to accomplish moving forward. So, as you both look to the future, how has your journey with cancer influence your goals and what you're looking to do, and what are some of your aspirations? I'm already ready to be blown away by the answer from both of you, but maybe Albert, do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. I see myself in the consulting industry, management consulting. So within next like 5 to 10 years, I want to after finishing my master's degree, I will then try to do MBA and then pursue career in consulting. Try to come up with more efficient ways for my clients to improve their systems. And yeah, the thing that my experience with cancer has taught me is basically resilience. Every time I experience something challenging, something difficult, I think of my treatment and I realize that I have overcame something that was much difficult to do. So if I had the experience of overcoming something really difficult, then these upcoming challenges that I face do not seem to be that hard. So in that sense, it just like teaches you resilience, how to get things done, even like when you have so many things to do, how to fight on multiple fronts, how to like work on your essays at the same time, apply for internships, all this like kind of multitasking and like resilience at the same time.
Yeah, resiliency, absolutely. I hear a lot of resiliency from both of you. Yeah, yeah. Richie, what do you think?
Remind me of the question.
That's okay. That's okay. I was wondering, how your journey with cancer has influenced your goals and what you want to do moving forward. I mean, like how it's as you look to your future, how that's impacted you.
Well, I guess after I don't know. I guess after the treatment, I was always ambitious. But I guess after the treatment, it kind of pushed me to want to do something bigger than just for myself, I would say, or for just fame. As to that's just something that a lot of people want. Um, I wanted to do something for others, for the planet, and so I guess the way that I hope to do this is through my experiences, but also um, my passions and what I enjoy to do. Um, through bodybuilding, I hope to help other survivors get stronger. Through environmental science, I hope to inspire others to take action in this as well. Through my art, I hope to help other survivors the same way that it helped me. And through Richie Foundation, I hope to do all that.
I think you definitely have. I think you both have, and I think you're even just talking to you for a few minutes tonight. It's so clear that you've both really, you're really resilient. You've taken what you've been through and just, you're doing incredible things, both of you. Yeah.
All right. Well, don't tell anyone, but survivorship, the sessions with the patients, the survivors are the most exciting, inspiring, and, interesting and wonderful sessions that this Oncothon will have. That's for sure. So thank you, Derek, for leading this session. You was really quiet today. I know you have much more energy, but I think you did a great job. That was really awesome. Thank you so much for accepting the invitation to lead the session. Thank you for what you're doing. I know you well, and you're helping so much kids and teenagers all around Boston. So keep doing what you're doing because you are very unique.
Well, thank you. Thank you,
Richie and Albert. Thank you so much for sharing your story. Thank you, everyone, for joining the session. We're just about to close the session. Don't forget, we're here because we want to raise funds to fight against child cancer, because we're going to raise funds to open the trial as soon as possible. That will explain you later on in other sessions with more details. And feel free to donate and to share what we're doing for everyone and encourage them to donate. All right. Good night.
Thank you both. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Children die every day from cancer across the globe. After accidents, cancer is the leading cause of death in children in developed countries. And yet, there are only 7 drugs approved for use in pediatric cancer versus over 200 for adults. Until now.
My friend Cesar and I founded Oncoheroes Biosciences after both of our families were deeply affected by child cancer. He lost his daughter to metastatic cancer at the age of 4, and my son is a brain cancer survivor dealing with a lot of side effects because of the toxicity of the treatments that he got. We realized that despite of the efforts in academic research, there was a lack of leadership on the industry, so we decided to launch Oncoheroes Biosciences, which is the only one company in the world 100% focused on developing new drugs for pediatric cancer. At Oncoheroes, we have 3 potential new drugs to treat up to 8 different types of pediatric cancers. The FDA allowed us last September to open 2 trials, but the only thing that prevents us right now to go ahead is funding.
Allie is my daughter, who I always described as loving, kind, and feisty. She was diagnosed at age 11 with alveolar rhabdomyosarcoma. She was stage 4 at diagnosis. And over the 5 years, she relapsed 6 times. She passed away at age 16. On November 13th, 2023. Allie and I met Oncoheroes a couple of years ago, and we felt a pretty strong connection with them. Allie and I both felt that Oncoheroes will really be the company that develops these cancer trials that these kids need. So I made a promise to continue her fight, make her proud for all the kids that come after her.
We need your help to give kids a cancer-free future. We can do this together. Well, welcome everyone again to the next session of the Oncothon, the first ever Oncothon. Remember, this is brought to you by Oncodaily, a media outlet. We're for hours on LinkedIn, X, formerly Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. The next session will be hosted by someone that unfortunately could not join us for today, but he prepared a video which we're going to play afterwards. The person who will be on the video is Dr. Akira Nakawara, which is the chair of the Asian Pediatric Hematology and Oncology Group. So I hope you enjoy the video.
Hi, how are you? This is Akira. Good morning and hello, everybody. My name is Akira Nakagawara from Japan, and I'm currently the chairman of the Asian Pediatric Hematology and Oncology Group, APOC, and director of the NGO Magokoro Organization for Childhood Cancer, MOCC, MOG. Congratulations on the first global Oncothon on Childhood Cancer Awareness Day, run by Dr. Gebor Tamamian's group in Armenia. It's a great honor for me to join such an exciting challenge as one of the guest speakers. I'm talking about the APOC story and its activities, and then about the global events related to the APOC. So in 2012, at the time of SIPE issue, 2012 Congress held in Jakarta, Indonesia, the Asian leaders of pediatric hematology and oncology gathered and agreed to make a unified clinical study group for childhood cancers in Asia. Since then, we had many times of discussion how to make the study group, but the way to reach the goal has never been so easy. So, however, we could finally and officially found the effort in March 2021. That was just 3 years ago. Our basic idea is that Asia is a contemporary branch of science and is an academic society, while EPOC should be an action team of Asia to reach the same goal. No child should die of cancer, care for more, care for all. Therefore, Asia and EPOC should function just like the Chinese proverb, two fields of a top. To support EPOC financially and officially, we made an NGO, MOCC MOG, that stands for Magokoro Organization for Childhood Cancer in Japan. The people are the members of EPOC Executive Council. So from upside left, myself, Chair of the Executive Council of EPOC, Dr. Chan, Secretary General, Dr. Purva Kipure, Executive Council Member of EPOC, India, Dr. Bharat Agarwal, India, and same, and Dr. Hiroki Hori. He's a current continental president of South Asia and also Executive Council member of EPOC. So Dr. Chikong Li, from China, Dr. Alice Yu, Taiwan, and Dr. Mohammed Sajid Khan, Pakistan. So we also set up the EPOC advisory board and its members. The leaders of the major national clinical study groups of childhood cancer in Asia are included. The leaders of JCCG of Japan, KPOC South Korea, CCCG in China, IMPOC in India, TIPOC of Thailand, TPOC of Taiwan, and RSPOH of Russia are the members. This is our first original peer-reviewed paper published last year in the JCO Global Oncology 2023. So as you can see here, the title of the paper is Current Challenge of Asian National Children's Cancer Study Group on behalf of APO. The structure of APO Society is now under construction. In addition, we are receiving nominations for the representative of each Asian country. So according to a global mapping of Asia, which SIOP is now trying to map. So childhood cancer is one of the rare cancers that occupies only 0.3% of all cancers. Yes, it's rare, but not rare actually if we think it at the level of the world. So every year, we see more than 420,000 children with cancer alone, and about 250,000 children with cancer a year in Asia. So importantly, more than 90% of child cancer occur in low and middle income countries in Asia. So recent reports have revealed that the mortality of child cancer is significantly high in Asia, Africa, and Latin America, as you can see in the slide. Actually, 80% of children with cancer in high-income countries can be cured now. On the other hand, only 0 to 50% of children with cancer in low and middle-income countries can be cured. Thus, there is a big difference in the cure rates between the countries with high income and those with low and middle income. We cannot ignore such kind of inequality. The reason why not be cured in low and middle income countries are no medical service due to poverty, innocence, misdiagnosis, wrong therapy, abandonment of therapy, treatment failure, etc. To fight against such inequality, both SIOP and the WHO stood up and proposed the idea WHO Global Childhood Cancer Initiative to the United Nations in 2018, and it was adopted anonymously. So then the goal was set up to be by 2030, let's achieve at least 60% survival for all children with cancer in the whole world. So that is the WHO Global Initiative for Childhood Cancer, WHO GSCC. Since then, the leader of WHO, Dr. Andre Levi, together with his colleague, has flied around the whole world to enlighten the WHO GSCC in the world. So WHO specifies 6 target diseases, which included ALL, Burkitt lymphoma, Hodgkin lymphoma, retinoblastoma, Wilms tumor, and low-grade glioma, all of which are relatively curable after appropriate therapies. In addition, WHO also specified target countries, including Philippines, Sri Lanka, Myanmar, Nepal, Mongolia, Uzbekistan, and Ukraine in Asia. To support to achieve the goal of WHO-GSCC, both APOC and NGO-MOC decided to hold advocacy events a year. I'd like to introduce you two of such recent events. The first one is the third WHO-GICC in Tokyo 2023, which was held in Tokyo last September. The event was held at the main hall of the National Cancer Center in Tokyo. The important event contents have been broadcasted on TV and by newspapers. For HRH, Princess Dina Miret in Jordan, who is a mother of the son with cancer, and also a former president of the USCC, gave a wonderful message. The impressive message has also been given by Dr. Carlos Rodriguez Galindo, who is a director of St. Jude Global, United States. The global panel discussion was conducted by networking of Pakistan, Cambodia, and Japan. The moderators were Godfrey Chan, China, and Dr. Lashmi Darby, India. After the discussion, so many nice comments were given by the authorities. Dr. Sadaf Artaf, India, Dr. Purna Kurkure, India, Dr. Gebal Tamamian, Armenia, Dr. Ramandeep Arora, India, and Dr. Panya Sexram, Thailand. Dr. Maliko Kakazi, a pediatric oncologist staff of the NGO Japan Heart, joined this event from Cambodia through online and reported how the cure rate of children with cancer in Cambodia is getting better now. So this is a screening of the global panel discussion of the events. Thank you, joining us, Dr. Gebal Tamamian, Dr. Ramandeep Arora, Dr. Godfrey Chan, and Dr. Lashmi Darby. The mother and her son with cancer, who fights against, gave us a deep thought. The champion of the Paralympic in Tokyo, who gave a survivor, who was a survivor of osteosarcoma, was a hero, giving a wonderful dream to all the people. So another event is that of the International Childhood Cancer Day, ICCD in 2024, held in Saga, Japan, on February 4th, just 10 days ago. So this event was hosted by NGO MOC, International Lions Club, SIOP, and APOC. So both Dr. Kathy Pritchard-Jones, a former president of SIOP, and Dr. Guillermo Chantada, the current president of SIOP, are very kind supporters to this event. So thank you very much, always. So the global virtual dialogue between Dr. Mariko Kakazu, Japan Heart, Cambodia, and Ms. Kazuyo Watanabe, NGO Asia Child Care League, ACCL, encouraged all the participants very much. Thank you, Mariko and Kazuyo. So in this event, we introduced a new friend, Purple Song Can Fly, which works at Texas Children's Hospital in the United States. So Miss Anita Cruz is a singer-songwriter and has made many songs for the children with the cancer at the Texas Children's Hospital. So we are looking forward to collaborating together in the future. So lastly, this year, the SciUp Asia Congress is going to Yokohama, Japan. It will be held in coming June from 22nd to 25th. So during the Congress, we will also have the APOC annual meeting, the 2024, on June 24th, the third day of the SciUp Asia Congress. So all of you are welcome to Yokohama. Then see you there again to all of you. Thank you very much for your attention. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much for your video. I hope next time you will join us. So we have another video. This time we're talking about 8 minutes video from another speaker that could not join us today at this time. His name is Paul Schlegel from Germany. He's the chief of the Pediatric Hematology, Oncology, and Stem Cell Transplant Program of the University Children's Hospital of Würzburg. I hope I said it correctly, from Germany. Yeah, let's go ahead with the video.
Dear colleagues, a very warm welcome to Childhood Cancer Day 2024. My name is Paul Schlegel from Würzburg, Germany, and I'm extending our warmest regards from the Pediatric Hematology Oncology team in Würzburg, Germany for Childhood Cancer Day. Last year, as you well remember, we have had a most remarkable event of SciUp Asia meeting in Armenia in Yerevan. We have experienced an extremely nice hospitality, but most importantly, we have had excellent talks and many discussions, which hopefully will help to improve knowledge in these rare diseases and which will also hopefully help to improve treatment for those children in many countries around the world. Let me come to Childhood Cancer Day. What are the successes of our journey that we have reached so far? And these successes are really remarkable. Over the years, we have seen a tremendous improvement in the survival rates of many pediatric childhood cancers. When you look back at the 1950s and 60s, survival rates for most of these cancers were down as low to 0 to 10%. And over time, these have improved, for example, shown here in red for acute lymphoblastic leukemia, which now has a prognosis of about 80 to 90%. And this tremendous improvement has been able to be reached for many other disease entities. When it comes to childhood cancer, let us remember that every child and every family really matters. There is one moment in the life of a family that changes a whole life. When diagnosis, for example, of leukemia or of a brain tumor or solid tumor is offered to the family, and when they fear for the life of their children. These diseases are rare, and the children in many instances are critically ill. Now, let us remember what has contributed to the success, to the tremendous success that we have seen over the last decades. And today I've brought you 3 major ingredients which I find have been essential to this remarkable development. Number 1, we work in multidisciplinary, multi-professional teams right from the beginning. Every child needs specific care in a pediatric oncology center. We have learned that only by connecting and by working closely together in clinical studies and registries, the success rate of treatment has remarkably and tremendously improved. And we have learned that it is very, very important to really consolidate our tools for diagnosis. And therefore, in many countries, probably most of the countries, we now find the structure of reference laboratories. This means that every diagnostic step that is taken locally is also referenced in a national central lab. Therefore, providing a second network of security, not only to the treating pediatric oncologists, but also the families and most notably to the children. This has been a tremendous effort to establish those national reference centers. In many countries they exist. In some countries they are right now in the process of being established, and this, in my opinion, has been one of the major hallmarks and ingredients to really be able to achieve this success. Now let's come back to our graphic. What do we see? We do not only see success, but we also see challenge. And let me show you this yellow mark. It shows that about 20 to 30% of children in some diseases cannot be cured by current means. So this represents the challenge for the future years to come. And how do we address this challenge? Let's go back to our cyclist on the mountains. What are our challenges on the journey? And as one example how one can address these challenges, I've brought you one example from a situation in refractory relapsed ALL, a situation where ALL has come back many times and has become unresponsive to chemotherapy. And one of the major developments here was, as an example, the development of a so-called bispecific T-cell engager. This bispecific T-cell engager is an artificial product, and it has two components. One component, shown here in red, is taken from an anti-CD3 antibody, and it attaches to the CD3 receptor on a human T-cell. The green one here comes from a CD19 antibody. It's linked to the red one by a protein spacer, and the green one attaches to the CD19 on the tumor cell, lymphoma, or leukemic cell. And by directing the T-cell to the leukemic cell, this T-cell gets activated, and then, as shown with a red arrow, this T-cell releases, for example, granzyme B, perforin, and other cytokines, and they produce lysis of the subsequent tumor cell. And with this principle, by a 28-day infusion, one is able to really cure an otherwise resistant leukemia. This is one of the most remarkable examples that we have seen in pediatric hematology oncology these last years. Now, what do we achieve with such a bispecific engager? Here are results of the Rialto expanded access study, where you see in a population of pediatric patients who were refractory to all conventional treatment, just by the addition of the antibody, plus or minus following stem cell transplantation, you can achieve long-term cure in quite a number of patients, and thus saving many, many lives. Here is shown the same results, just splitted by MRD responders and non-responders. It's very obviously that those having a good MRD response are the ones who have a better outcome. This is one example how to address this challenge, and there are many other challenges on the road and many other treatment options that are currently being evaluated and developed. Childhood Cancer Day. We remember every single family that has been treated in our institution. We embrace their courage and their resilience in enduring all the treatments that have been necessary. We embrace their courage to go forward and to help their children achieve life and achieve long-term remission. This is a team effort. of many, many players and many more to come. On the right, you see a cartoon of one other development that is currently being developed at many places, so-called CAR T cells, chimeric antigen receptor T cells, that will be another milestone in the treatment for our children. But for today, I want to close with the following remark. It is our goal, it is our impetus, it is our motivation to one day be able to say, no child should die of cancer. Thank you very much for your attention.
Hi again, everyone, and welcome back to the Global Oncothon by Oncodaily. As you know, we are doing this for 24 hours, and we started almost 1.5 hour ago, and we are continuing. We have distinguished guests from all over the world, oncologists, families, survivors, fighters, foundations, and now it's my great honor to welcome here 3 distinguished guests from Taiwan, Japan, and China. So first of all, I would like to I will give just short intros for our distinguished speakers, and then we'll go ahead with our short session. First, I'd like to introduce Professor Qingtian Peng, my dearest mentor from Taiwan, who I haven't seen for several months, and great to see all of you, first of all, here. Professor Peng is a pediatric hematologist oncologist who specializes in mostly benign hematology. He is the past president of the Taiwan Society of Thrombosis and Hemostasis, and he is a professor of pediatrics and hematology and oncology at China Medical University and professor of biotechnology at Asia University. He is also the former superintendent of Children's Hospital of China Medical University. And always when I'm talking about Professor Peng, I say that because of him, Taiwan for me became my second home. So thank you, Professor Peng, for being with us today. Next, I would like to introduce Professor Hiroki Hori, the president of SIOP Asia. Professor Hori, as I mentioned, is the continental president of the International Society of Pediatric Oncologists Asian chapter, and he's a professor at Graduate School of Medicine at my university in Tsu, Japan. He's the former chair of the International Committee of the Japanese Society of Pediatric Hematology and Oncology, and he has been working for Japan Children's Cancer Group, the first nationwide study group for childhood cancer in Japan, launched in 2014. He has also joined the International Medical Cooperation with limited countries in Africa as an expert of Japan International Cooperation Agency, and has a strong will to contribute to WHO Global Initiative for Childhood Cancer as a member of SIOP. Thank you very much, Professor Hori, for being with us. And next, I'd like to introduce Professor Fengming Spring Kong. Professor Kong is a master in clinical trial design and data analysis. She's an American board certified radiation oncologist, fellow of the American College of Radiology, fellow of the American Association of Women Radiologists, and fellow of American Society of Radiation Oncology. She's a clinical professor, director of Imaging and Blood Biomarker Group, director of Thoracic Oncology Center, and Deputy Cancer Center Director at Hong Kong University Shenzhen Hospital, Li Kangxing Faculty of Medicine, the University of Hong Kong. Professor Kong is a graduate of Radiation Oncology Residency Program from the Washington University in St. Louis, and also had Radiation Oncology Residency training from Shanghai Cancer Hospital, Fudan University, and postdoctoral training at the Duke University. Thank you very much, Professor Kong, and thank you very much, everyone, for being with us here. I would like to ask our guests and honorary speakers to turn on their cameras. Before they do, we are coming from different countries, from different backgrounds, but I mean, we are working in the same field. And you know, today we organized this global Oncothon dedicated to pediatric cancer and drug discovery and to support pediatric cancer research, because the field is really lacking, and kind of pediatric cancer drug development is not a priority in the global agenda, and we're trying to bring this there. I'd like to know your perspective, first of all, about the situation of pediatric oncology in your countries, and second, about the initiative and about your ideas on how we can move forward with this. Thank you very much. I think ladies first. Let's give the floor to Professor Gong and then Professor Hori.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for having me. It's my honor and a pleasure to share my thoughts on pediatric oncology, very important. As you mentioned, actually, I practiced in US for 20 years as radiation oncologist, also practice in China, now mainland China and Hong Kong, China, for almost like more than 5 years. So I have seen both east and the west side of the world. One thing I feel like a really burning for pediatric oncology is a clinical trial, clinical research in each country, in China. You know, when I was in US, like almost every patient treated in clinical trial, COG, and I learned the learning of advancement of treatment such as a worm's tumor, treated like every step, every change of regimens associated with a very well designed, very clearly designed trial. But in China, almost no such trial. Few people, we are trying to, as the president of China American Network, founding president of China American Network of Radiation Oncology. So we are trying to introduce the West, clinical trial concept into China. Find out that also the talents are very limited in China, not only research, clinical trial limited. I think this is something I think it's really burning. You need a lot of investment, a lot try. And the US have a more than 50 years history, actually talking about almost 150-year history in clinical trial, funded by government. However, in China, in Hong Kong, China, zero year government trained. And luckily, interestingly, actually, it's really great news now. Chinese government are starting to support the clinical trial organization. Shenzhen also, Hong Kong government has just decided to invest 6 billion on building a clinical trial institute, which is really important for the altogether in medicine. But the pediatric has not been brought onto the table of full priority. I think it's clinical trial in pediatric group are important, and also myself being very lucky that supported by Shenzhen government, mainland China Shenzhen government, for building clinical trial platform that about $30 million from the Shenzhen government. Probably the first trial ever in China supported by some kind of a government organization. But also a little bit embarrassing, we have not put a lot of effort on pediatric oncology. I do have a friend, our current president of China American Network of Radiation Oncology, who is pediatric oncology actually expert in practicing as professor in University of Nebraska. I think we were discussing about effort in China, in Hong Kong, Beijing, and we'll have a meeting probably focus on clinical trial oncology, pediatric oncology, end of this year in Hong Kong. So clinical trial, we need a support. Drug company, technology company, also very important. And the drug is important for me. Technology is also very important. There's so many advanced technology, including AI and radiation, a lot of precision radiation technology that has been widely, extensively researched in adult cancer, like a stereotactic body radiation, but has limited support doing clinical trial at the same time for the advanced technology. For example, but I think a proton, we're getting a lot of proton for radiation therapy that can decrease the doses to normal tissue, which is very important. But I think we have more than proton. We have proton is a very expensive machine, and with limited skilled technologies to use it. If you don't know how to use it, even you have good machine, then it's not going to be very helpful. I think we need a training talent to do the trial. But importantly, I think we need to use the available, like a linear accelerator, precision radiation therapy. One thing I'm focusing in our big group as a priority is immune-sparing precision radiation therapy. Not, every piece of normal tissue are very important to protect, not for particular for pediatric. The radiation damage to the lymphocyte, to the blood. People did not pay attention that in our group, our research find out that it's critically important, not only for tumor control, but more importantly for survival, quality of life. And this is almost zero research in pediatric oncology. We need to really learn. We need to learn, I think, into our clinical trial, we need to get every patient into trial. What I mean, the clinical trial is not only for treatment trial. Collecting data, observational study is also clinical study. So you collect every information possible, build a big data, because the pediatric, it's rare cancer in another way. That's another reason it's rare. It's not so common. That's why we are, kind of being neglected. So I think we need to, first of all, I think most important, collect data every patient you treat. You ask every patient in clinical trial, in some kind of treatment trial. But if we don't have time, don't have money to do the trial first, why don't we collect all the information? And we actually have a trial open that we can collect the clinical information, not only tumor treatment outcome, but also treatment toxicity, quality of life. Another thing, as you mentioned, I'm most excited about, I think most important for pediatric as well, imaging biomarker, blood marker is something minimally invasive. We can collect them, like even CBC, lymphocyte, subtyping, those kind of simple things you can do in daily practice. We collect them, get all the data together, and build a bank of data. And then we're learning from this. Find a priority, find something that is better, more not only better, more precision, better, cheap. I think better, faster, and cheaper as well. better, faster, cheaper, using all the technology possible. We have a lot, but we don't have time to work on that. So I'm so glad that you guys working on this. Get a global effort, get a global expert, put together from every field, get the best of the best for our children, our future, really our future. We can do better. We have a lot to do. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Kong. Thank you very much for the bringing also the perspective on the clinical trials, the importance of clinical trials, and I totally agree with your comments about it. And also, it's great to hear your perspective as a radiation oncologist who has been practicing in different settings, was in like resource-rich settings, like you were in the United States, then in Hong Kong, and also in mainland China. So I think it's really interesting to hear your perspective. Thank you very much for that. I'd like to also, before giving the floor to our next speakers, I'd like to remind our the people who join us every minute or during the Oncothon. You may leave your comments to our speakers or just your suggestions or questions in the chats. We are live streaming in different channels on social media, on YouTube, on several places. So please engage with us and using the chat, and we'll be happy to give you the floor by raising your questions here. And I'm going to, I think we have a problem with Professor Peng's camera. Professor Peng, I think there is just, you need to push the button to turn it around, the camera. Please try it that way. Before you do, I will give the floor to Professor Hori, and just briefly, Professor Hori, if you could share your ideas about the situation of pediatric cancer in Japan, and as a SIOP Asia president in SIOP in Asian region, and also your perspective about the drug development and the importance of such initiatives.
Okay, thank you. Geborg, thank you for your kind introduction. Can you hear me? Is okay?
Very well.
Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. I'm Hiroki Hori, a pediatric oncologist working in Japan. I am a member of the International Society of Pediatric Oncology, SIOP, and currently in the position of Continental President of Asia in SIOP. As the Continental President of SIOP Asia, I would like to share my wish to save all lives of children with cancer in Asia and in the world. World Health Organization, WHO, initiated the Global Initiatives for Childhood Cancer, WHO-GICC. SIOP and SIOP Asia get actively involved in the activities, and I myself strongly hope to contribute to the improvement of survival and quality of life of children with cancer. Advocacy for children with cancer is strongly emphasized in the activities of WHO-GICC. In this point, the activity of Oncothon will be a great support to children with cancer. The development of new therapeutics and well-designed clinical trials have been producing better outcome of patients with pediatric cancer in the last several decades, mainly in Western countries. Of course, many oncologists in low and middle-income countries have contributed to advancement in pediatric oncology in each country. But there are still a lot of barriers against the best practice in pediatric oncology in these countries. We would like to make more effort for delivering the better oncology care to children with cancer in these countries. I believe that common mission is to reduce the disparity in the practice and care for children with cancer and their families between low, middle, and high-income countries. Let's work together for children with cancer. Thank you for your kind attention. That is my message. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Hori. Thank you for your great message. I'd like to give you the floor to Professor Peng to give his insight on the pediatric oncology situation in Taiwan and about the importance of this, the pediatric drug development and the situation in general. Professor Peng, the floor is yours. Please turn on your. You are unmuted. Let me. Okay, we can hear you. We can hear you. We can hear you. No. No, we cannot. No. No, we cannot hear you. Okay, before Professor Peng is trying to connect, also I would like to remind all our guests, and I think what I was going to talk about it's already down the screen. So today we are doing this global Oncothon to raise awareness and raise funds for pediatric cancer research. Now we are supporting with this initiative Oncoheroes Biosciences and with their great work on pediatric drug development. So as it's mentioned at the bottom of the screen, our Armenian team made the challenge in the morning, and that if we are able to raise from every country with their currencies $1 million, that would be wonderful for pediatric drug development. So let's see how the day goes, and I'm very positive we'll have great results. Let me see if.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you, Professor Peng.
Can or can? Can or can? Who can hear? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Yes, thank you for Professor Tamayang. You are inviting me to participate in this important activity. So every dear esteemed guest, ladies and gentlemen, good day. I am Dr. Chin Tian Peng, a professor specializing in hematology and oncology at the China Medical University Children's Hospital in Taichung, Taiwan. With over 30 years of battling childhood cancers, I'm also privileged to serve on the board of the Taiwan Childhood Cancer Foundation. Today, Oncodaily is hosting a global telethon dedicated to pediatric cancer research. This 24-hour initiative aims to raise crucial funds for an international clinical trial focusing on the Volasertib developed by the Oncoheroes Biosciences. Pediatric cancer is a tough challenge, but your contribution can truly make a difference. Every donation will support the A.D. Anderson Alveolar Rhabdomyosarcoma Research Fund, backed by the MSY Open Childhood Cancer Foundation. I urge and invite each of you to join us in this noble cause. Visit Ali and Fund online and let's join hands in the fight against the pediatric cancer. I'm thrilled to part of this first global Oncothon to raise awareness about pediatric cancer and thanks much of the Professor Tamimian invited me here as well. It's also a real honor for me to share my experiences with you all. Firstly, let me introduce the Childhood Cancer Foundation of Taiwan since 1982. We've been providing care for children with cancer and spreading awareness, from setting up databases to hosting parents' meetings. We are fully committed. While we were made progress with the cure rate jumping from 60% to almost 90%. There's still work to be done. Over 10% of cases still see children succumbing to this disease, especially in challenging situations like relapses. But we are not giving up. Together, we will pave the way for the brighter, cancer-free future for children worldwide. Secondly, we are assembling a crucial team to tackle cases with high mortality rates, those that relapse for resist standard treatments. Molecular profiling and genomic characteristic offers a targeted therapy for such pediatric cancers, aiming for precise therapeutic targets based on individualized profiles. Our ongoing study at China Medical University Children's Hospital in Taiwan focus on pediatric and young adult patients with high risk relapse for refractory cancers by harnessing the power of the genomic profiling and bioinformatic analysis. We tailor selective targeted therapies to match individual operations. This holistic approach holds promise in significantly improving disease control and survival outcomes for pediatric and young adult patients with relapse and refractory cancers. In conclusion, let's join forces and lend our voices to those who need them most. Together, we will relegate childhood cancer to the historical books. Thank you for being part of this global movement. Your support means everything. Thanks a lot. Once again, bye-bye. It's okay?
Thank you very much, Professor Peng. Thank you very much for your insight. Thank you very much, Professor Hori, and thank you very much, Professor Gong. It's really important to have the insights from different countries and opinions from different countries, because one size does not fit all. And I think in various areas we have the problems really differ. So we need to have the perspective from everywhere, and that's why it's very important. And also, this is a sign of unity against childhood cancer when we are logging in from all over the world and showing our support for one cause, whether we are in Japan, Taiwan, China, United States, Europe, Africa, or elsewhere. Thank you very much again, and we are going to continue our global Oncothon. It's the second hour already, coming to the end, but we still have another 22 hours to live stream on different channels. I would like to remind all our followers and people who are joining us, leave their comments, suggestions, and just share us. And don't forget to donate for this, as Professor Banks mentioned, noble cause. Thank you very much again, and let's continue. Thank you.
Thank you.
250 children die every day from cancer across the globe. After accidents, cancer is the leading cause of death in children in developed countries. And yet, there are only 7 drugs approved for use in pediatric cancer versus over 200 for adults. Until now.
My friend Cesar and I founded Oncoheroes Biosciences after both of our families were deeply affected by child cancer. He lost his daughter to metastatic cancer at the age of 4, and my son is a brain cancer survivor dealing with a lot of side effects because of the toxicity of the treatments that he got. We realized that despite of the efforts in academic research, there was a lack of leadership on the industry, so we decided to launch Oncoheroes Biosciences, which is the only one company in the world 100% focused on developing new drugs for pediatric cancer. At Oncoheroes, we have 3 potential new drugs to treat up to 8 different types of pediatric cancers. The FDA allowed us last September to open 2 trials, but the only thing that prevents us right now to go ahead is funding.
Allie is my daughter, who I always described as loving, kind, and feisty. She was diagnosed at age 11 with alveolar rhabdomyosarcoma. She was stage 4 at diagnosis. And over the 5 years, she relapsed 6 times. She passed away at age 16. On November 13th, 2023. Allie and I met Oncoheroes a couple of years ago, and we felt a pretty strong connection with them. Allie and I both felt that Oncoheroes will really be the company that develops these cancer trials that these kids need. So I made a promise to continue her fight, make her proud for all the kids that come after her.
We need your help to give kids a cancer-free future. We can do this together.
Welcome back again to our global Oncothon. We are continuing our 24-hour marathon to raise funds for pediatric cancer drug development and research. And with this first global Oncothon organized by Oncodaily, where this time we're supporting Oncoheroes Biosciences in their great mission. Today is the International Childhood Cancer Day, and we are all united to fight childhood cancer globally. And today we will have many people all over the world joining us, around 100 esteemed speakers from different countries. And now I'm privileged to introduce our next 2 speakers. Professor Maria Babak.
Hi.
Hi, and Professor Gemma Arakelian. So let me first introduce Dr. Babak. She is an assistant professor of chemistry at the City University of Hong Kong, of the Department of, and she is the head of drug discovery lab at the same university. Dr. Babak is a board member of Institute of Cancer and Crisis, which aims to mitigate the impact of cancer on crisis on cancer patients. She's a world known in the field of drug discovery, and thank you very much for being with us today. And With us also is Dr. Gemma Arakelian. She's Armenian currently who lives in Hong Kong, and she's the CEO of Institute of Cancer and Crisis, one of our most talented medical oncologists, who is a PhD now in Dr. Babak's lab. I can talk about both of them for hours, but let me go forward and give the floor to them. Not to forget, Dr. Arakelian also is a adjunct assistant professor with our Department of Hematology and Pediatric Oncology at Yerevan State Medical University in Armenia. So we are trying, although she is in Hong Kong now, we are trying to keep part of her in Armenia with us. I'd like first to give the floor to Professor Babak, and please share your insights about this important day and about this important cause and your ideas about the cancer drug development. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tamamyan. And I would like to start my talk with thanking Oncodaily and you specifically for doing such an important thing for all the cancer patients, in particular pediatric cancer patients. And I think our friendship has evolved in the recent years, and I'm really, really happy to be on board and to represent fundamental and clinical research, and in particular research in Hong Kong. And I would like to tell a little bit about what we do and how we can contribute to the treatment of pediatric cancers, even though we are not doctors, but researchers. And I mentioned that we have friendship with doctors as fundamental scientists, but I would like to remind you that chemotherapy, in fact, was born from the friendship between a doctor and a chemist. And I would like to spend several minutes to just remind you how it happened, and then maybe this will help to raise more funds today towards the fundamental research. So I think that most of you here know the name of Sidney Farber. And Sidney Farber was a clinical pathologist in Boston. And he was working in a very small laboratory alone. And at some point, he was a little bit tired of being lonely there and not working with doctors, nurses, and patients. In fact, he was working in the basement of the hospital, and there was a lot of life happening in other floors, but he was alone and always working in his microscope. So looking at his microscope. And one day he decided to take a leap of faith, and he decided that now he will start his own research and he will work with patients finally, because that was the biggest dream of his. And so he decided to make a very serious professional switch and tackle one of the most difficult diseases at that time, and that was in 1947. And what was the most difficult disease? One of the most difficult diseases, well, obviously cancer, but a particular type of cancer, which was a childhood leukemia. And leukemia, especially childhood leukemia, had fascinated doctors and researchers for more than a century. And in fact, not only fascinated, but also frustrated. And if Farber talked to doctors about his chances to cure childhood leukemia, they would really be furious with him and laugh at him, because at that time it was considered absolutely impossible, and there was not much that could be offered. However, Farber was a very, very brave and ambitious man. And so what he decided to do, he decided to try and see whether there can be any kind of treatments that can be used for these poor children. And this is where chemists come into play, because luckily for all of us and our community, Farber had a very, very good friend. And his name was Yella Subarao, sorry. And he was a biochemist. And in fact, he came to Harvard with a scholarship, but it didn't work out. And so he moved to the company, which was called Lederle. And he was working on the development of the antifolates analogs. And these antifolates, they could really work like a original folate, but with an opposite action. So instead of turning the supply on, they would really be like a wrong key in the lock, and they would turn off the supply. And eventually, Sidney Farber, he knew a lot about the research on folates from other doctors, medical doctors, and he decided to give folic acid to the leukemia patients, in particular children. And when he got one child come to him one day to his lab, he actually administered the folic acid. And unfortunately, it had a very, very bad consequence, because cancer even progressed. So it even became to develop faster. And this could be the end of the chemotherapy and cancer research, especially childhood leukemia research. But Farber, he thought, he looked at it as an opportunity. So if we can actually accelerate cancer with the folate, what if we use a so-called antifolate? And this is where he remembered about one of his best friends, and he said, okay, this is exactly what you are doing. You are working in the lab and you are developing the antifolates. So why don't you ship me the package with this antifolate, and I will administer it in one of the patients. And this is what happened. They quickly synthesized the folate analog, and they shipped it to Sidney Farber. And within 2 weeks, the package arrived, and Farber administered it to the patient. And interestingly, there was a very, very significant effect. And this was, maybe some of you know the drug aminopterin, and the patient really could have a very, very good life. Unfortunately, of course, he relapsed, but he was in remission for quite a long time. And this was the birth of the chemotherapy. And I would like to say that fundamental research is extremely important for the future treatment of cancer, because as my example shows, the friendship between a doctor, or in fact pathologist, and a medicinal chemist or biochemist led to the birth of chemotherapy. And I would like to talk about raising money for fundamental research or clinical research. Well, raising money is never easy, but it's especially difficult when you're trying to raise money in the area of drug discovery and drug development, especially if you're not a part of a big pharma company, and especially if you work in academia. So raising money for drug discovery and drug development is extremely tough. And I would like to discuss some of the problems in this money raising, because there is, first of all, a lot of competition. And there are a lot of important projects, and everybody is trying to get the same slice of funding pie. However, some of this research is really, really important. And there is always hope for young researchers and young professors like us, that we can also take a little bit of this funding pie. That's why we are extremely supportive of this initiative today. And we really hope that at the end of this event, there will be enough funding raised for this very promising drug, and that maybe it will help some patients the way that Farber and his friend helped patients many years ago. And also, besides the competition, the fundamental and clinical research can take a lot of time. And unfortunately, it's very complicated. And this can put some people off who might otherwise could invest. So you don't expect quick result. You expect some slow and maybe sometimes painful road, but really at the end, there will be some reward. So I really urge people to support fundamental and clinical research in the area of drug discovery and drug development. And of course, it will help to fight cancer in future. It is extremely hard to get enough money. And unfortunately, if we do not get money, this will extremely slow down the important research work. So that's why we really should unite and do this together. And even a small investment also matters. And just to finish this talk, I would like to say several words about our lab. So we work in City University of Hong Kong, and CTU and our lab in particular are very, very interested in collaborations between medical doctors and biochemists, biologists, and medicinal chemists. And I think that there should not be a gap between us, because very often doctors do not think well of chemists. Even in the 17th century, chemists were considered by doctors like very, very ignorant and arrogant people. We are not, and we really would like to help. So I think that we really should unite, and we should not underestimate the work of doctors, and doctors should also appreciate that we as fundamental researchers are willing to help. So to finish this talk, let's unite and let's try to raise as much money as possible, because this will really help to beat cancer in future. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Babak, for your wonderful talk and for bringing this very nice story about Sydney Farber and the discovery of methotrexate. I mean, I also like usually to bring this story up because the the treatment of cancer started from pediatric leukemias in general, but during the history later on, pediatric cancer drug development kind of was neglected and is neglected right now. That's why I think it's important. Regarding the collaboration between the basic scientists and doctors, I 100% agree with all your comments. And there is a hypothesis that the white coat, lab coat doctors got from the scientists at the end of 19th century, this way trying to show that medicine is a scientific discipline. That's why I think it's inevitable to have this collaboration. Thank you very much. And
Thank you.
I'd like also to give the floor to Dr. Gemma Arakelian. I'm sure whatever I say about Gemma, Professor Babak also is going to have the same, to prove my words. Gemma is one of the most brilliant minds we have, and I'm sure she is going to be the superstar of oncology in the global field. She's the CEO of the Institute of Cancer and Crisis, and under her leadership, the Institute really made huge developments recently. Besides being a great oncologist, she's a wonderful person and a great leader. And now she's working also in the basic research lab, so trying to bring the perspective and learn the perspective also on the basic science and bring this up. Dr. Arakelian, I'd like to ask you to talk about the work you are doing through the Institute of Cancer and Crisis. And thanks for being with us today. Please, the floor is yours.
Professor Tamamian, thanks a lot for your kind words and kind introduction, and greetings to all the participants from around the world who have joined our live stream today. As Dr. Tamamian mentioned, I am the CEO currently of the Institute of Cancer and Crisis, and originally I'm from Armenia, medical oncologist, and currently I'm conducting anti-cancer research in the drug discovery lab at the City University of Hong Kong. So 15th of February is the International Childhood Cancer Day, and today we come together with a shared goal. Oncodaily and Oncoheroes Biosciences organized this telethon to raise funds for finding cure for pediatric cancer patients. And I want to talk on behalf of the Institute of Cancer and Crisis, and I want to extend our full support for this Oncothon. And also, using this opportunity, I would like to provide you with some insight into the Institute of Cancer and Crisis. So basically, our institute was founded in the Republic of Armenia in 2021. We have 3 primary goals. First of all, it's raising awareness about the challenges that hinder cancer prevention, care, and diagnosis in settings impacted by crisis. Secondly, we want to investigate and mitigate the impact of crisis on cancer patients and their access to essential care. and conduct research and engage in, of course, in advocacy initiatives to advance knowledge and promote effective interventions in this particular area. So at ICC, our team includes highly respected professionals from diverse fields, including oncology, public health, social sciences, and cancer policy. Together, we possess a vast amount of knowledge and experience, which allows us to effectively address the complex challenges faced by cancer patients and advocate for their needs in challenging situations. Through our projects and research initiatives and interviews with experts, our goal is to shed light on the impact of crisis on cancer patients and find ways to minimize these effects. We achieve this by sharing personal experiences, fostering collaborative relationships with cancer centers and experts, and developing common strategies. And our ultimate aim is to ensure that cancer patients receive adequate care during and after times of crisis. So at ICC, we understand the immense difficulties faced by those engaged in the battle against cancer, especially if we are talking about pediatric cancer. The psychological toll on children with cancer is intense as they face increased anxiety and distress. Social economic challenges also are there, making it difficult for families to afford necessary medications and support services. So I want to mention also that last year, Institute of Cancer and Crisis, together with Oncodaily, organized the first global summit on war and cancer. Over the course of 3 days, from December 14 to 16, 2023, this summit brought together individuals and organizations dedicated to the fight against cancer in areas affected by conflict. During our summit, we heard from many different speakers, including doctors, scientists, policymakers, influential advocates, who discussed the urgent challenges faced by cancer patients in conflict-affected regions like Ukraine, Gaza, Sudan, Syria, Nagorno-Karabakh, and more. Around 50 countries were represented during the summit, and hundreds of participants attended it. So Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus, the Director General of the World Health Organization, and Princess Dinamarca of Jordan, the Honorary President of the European Organization for Research and Treatment of Cancer, gave the opening speeches and during our event. And throughout the summit, we had different meaningful discussions, and we shared best practices and formed partnerships to improve cancer care in conflict-affected areas. And please join us during the second Global Summit on War and Cancer, as we are hopeful that we'll organize second one soon as well. The Oncothon telethon presents a unique opportunity for all of us now to join together and contribute to a cause that holds profound significance. So I want us to unite our efforts and make change in the lives of children who fight cancer each day. So I'm challenging each and every one of you to actively participate in this telethon, because your support, and doesn't matter like the size or form of it, it can be through financial contributions, it can be spreading awareness or volunteering your valuable time, will have a direct and profound impact on the lives of children battling cancer. So I want to extend my deepest gratitude to Oncodaily and Oncoheroes Biosciences for their admirable efforts in organizing this remarkable event and for their commitment to raising essential funds for pediatric cancer research, because now I see that this is type of crisis. Now pediatric cancer research really lacks of funds. So together, let us make this Oncothon an extraordinary success, so no child has to face cancer alone in the future. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to talk during this Oncothon.
Thank you very much, Gemma. Thanks a lot for your very interesting speech and very inspiring speech. Just one quick question came to my mind. What's the and I think this question is to both of you. What's the most challenging between the two of you working in and bringing the different perspectives in the same lab?
Maybe Professor Babak, you answer first?
Yes.
Okay, I'll answer first. I think from my perspective, the most important is to convince the grantors and the investors that fundamental research is really important. And the biggest problem, the biggest difference between our work and the work of doctors is that you cannot see the results immediately. So sometimes we have failures, sometimes we need to repeat experiment many times, and sometimes at the end of 1 or 2 years of research, we are still at the preclinical stage. So from my experience, very often grantors expect that this fundamental research will very quickly result in the drug being in clinics. And this is it's impossible. So I think we should really change the stigma on this research, and fundamental research is really important, and we should really bridge the gap between thinking of the medical doctors and the researchers in the lab.
Thank you.
As Professor Babak mentioned previously, in my opinion, indeed there is a huge gap between basic science and clinical work that we usually do in clinics. And actually, I'm so thankful for this opportunity that now I have a chance to learn more about basic research, because the work that scientists are doing is amazing, but also sometimes they need guidance from doctors to understand which part of the research is more important, which parts of cancers are more challenging, what to be concentrated on. So there is this gap between basic scientists and between clinic that I think needs to be fulfilled. And as Professor Babak mentioned previously, we really need to work together. And only in that case, there can be these breakthroughs in drug discovery. Because we need to each other. We are not competing. We need each other to make progress. Yeah.
That's very true, and thank you very much for that. And like Professor Babak mentioned at the beginning of her talk, bringing the story of Sidney Farber, that's how through the cooperation only it started, and that's the only way, I'm sure. And when we started organizing the Global Oncothon, also the idea was to bring as many stakeholders in the field we have to the table as it is possible. That's why we have basic scientists, we have clinical scientists, we have or clinicians working in the wards. We have patients, families, survivors, advocates, foundations. And yeah, that's very important. And pediatric cancer, in general cancer, but also pediatric cancer is a huge challenge for our society. And I'm sure anywhere in the world we are coming, we need to be united against this disease to save one more life and to ease one more pain. Before closing this part of the session and moving to another one, I would like to use this opportunity to thank also our teams working behind the scenes, who we cannot see right now, but they are doing amazing job streaming us online on different platforms and in many channels. Right now, the team from Oncodaily, thank you very much. The team from Oncoheroes, thank you very much. And the team from Restream, where we are streaming, thank you very much. And I hope I didn't forget anyone from the teams, but we still have around 22 hours, so I will have more opportunities to thank everyone. And thank you so much to all the speakers who joined us. Thank you very much, Professor Babak. Thank you very much, Professor Arakelian, for being with us today. Have a wonderful day, and thanks for all what you are doing. Hope to see you soon.
Thank you for the invitation, Professor.
Hi, everyone, again. My name is Ricardo Garcia. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Oncoheroes Biosciences. Also, Rich is that, a brain tumor survivor. I'm here to introduce the next guest of our next session. We're going to talk about child cancer academic research. We have Nita Radhakrishnan, pediatric oncologist. Dr. Nita is an associate professor and head Department of Pediatric Hematology Oncology at the Postgraduate Institute of Child Health, Noida, India. She's a co-chair at the International Society for Pediatric Oncology, SIOP, Partnership Working Group. She's also an executive council member of the Indian Society of Primary Immunodeficiencies, Nodal Officer of Hemophilia Thalassemia Services in Nagar, and section editor of Pediatric Hematology Oncology Journal. Welcome, Nita. Thank you for joining today.
Thank you.
We also have Professor Geoffrey Chan, which is the chair of the Chan Sun Xiong Family Foundation. Professor Chan is currently the head of the Department of Pediatrics and Adolescents Medicine at HQU Shenzhen Hospital. He has held the Xiao Yan Shou Endowed Professorship of Pediatrics at the University of Hong Kong. So thank you so much, Professor Geoffrey, for joining the session today. I think we should have another speaker coming on board. I'm not sure if I can see Dinesh. Anyway, so I think we have another speaker that was coming today and joining us, Dinesh Pinhardkar. I don't see him on the call. All right, so let's go. I'd like to speak first. Maybe the first question for both of you, and then maybe you can take, any of you can take the question first. And that's the question is, if you could share the beginning of your journey in the field of oncology, of the child cancer research, and what motivated you to dedicate your professional career to support pediatric cancer?
So may I start first?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So I'm currently working in the Hong Kong University. First of all, thank you, Ricardo, for the introduction. And a while ago, I listened to the other two speakers. The first thing came to my mind, and in fact, I noticed Professor Barbara actually is working in Hong Kong, but I never met her. And I don't even know she's working on child cancer. So the first thing we have to do is to improve our communication within the pediatric oncology community. I think that's very important. So a while ago, Professor Ricardo asked me, how did I start with this pediatric cancer research? I still remember after my fellowship training, I returned, at that time I went to St. Jude, and then I returned back to Hong Kong. And one of the diseases that struck me is neuroblastoma. And because the survival was very bad, even at St. Jude at that time. So I got to know there's a monoclonal antibody called the anti-GD2, and that time was developed by the Sloan Kettering group, Professor Lai Kong Chang. And then I tried to get into this antibody. That was in 1999. And very luckily, Professor Chang happened to be from Hong Kong as well. So we were able to work together, and then I was able to get that drug for our clinical trial. So I know how much actually the drug initially costs. So for the manufacturing, for each patient, probably you're talking about less than 10,000 US dollar per person, per patient. But now, by the time they're selling this drug, you are talking about 200,000 US per patient. So then I would like to say, what happened? Maybe in the later the discussion, because we are talking about raising funding, donation. But what made the drug so expensive? So I want to, try to explore into that, okay? And from my limited experience with that. So that's how I start, and I got into this third drug. But by the time I brought this drug back to Hong Kong, because this is an unregistered drug, so I have to pass through many process of regulatory process. It took me another 2 years. And I also have to raise funding. And where did I get the funding? Actually, just like today, I got the funding through the newspaper, the mass media. And finally, I raised the funding enough for me to treat 30 patients. So that's how I start. So I can share this experience with all of you later on. And one of the problems for pediatric oncology is a low volume, high risk kind of disease. So the clinical trial will be very, very expensive and take a long time. And unfortunately, all of us are sitting here, we are from Asia. Asia has 70% of the world population. But by the time we ask ourselves, how come all these drug trials seldom come to Asia? Why? So this is something we have to think about. And many of the Asian countries, when they come to this new drug, import of this new drug, registration of this new drug, they look at the Western society as of whether they are registered or not. Why don't we Asian country, our expert, we are the expert, we should form our, advisory group to advise our government. So how to conduct trial in Asia, and then they should recognize us. And so that's exactly the incentive or initiative of South Asia, and also another organization, Professor Akira Nakagawara, and we founded called the APOC, Asian Pediatric Hematology Oncology. Actually, we have 2 Indian, 2 Chinese, and then 2 Japanese, and a panel of many other Asian countries in the board. So I welcome all of you to join us. So we promote to run clinical trial for pediatric cancer in Asia to lower down the cost, so the drug will be cheaper and faster to reach our patient. So, I will go into that in more detail. And so Nita can talk about her experience first.
Yep. Thank you so much, Professor Shan. Nita, I think you wanted to share some slides with the audience. Is that correct?
Yes, so I
All
had
right.
shared.
Here they are.
I don't think these are the slides. Yes, thank you. So I would like to thank the entire team behind Oncothon and Georg for conceptualizing this and taking this forward. I think we've never seen anything of this magnitude ever, and I hope the mission reaches its target. And thanks to the entire team behind it. And so I've been asked to share my experience in working in a center which is catering to extremely difficult scenarios, especially social scenarios. So treating cancer in midst of all this is what I'm going to be sharing with you. Could you advance the slide, please? So these are the challenges that we face in childhood cancer management. So many a times children present very late to the health facility because I'm pretty sure that in most of the low and middle income countries, we do not have pediatric cancer as part of the medical curriculum. So most of the primary health center is being manned by doctors who have a basic graduation, who do not have awareness that even cancer exists in children. And even when they have, they do not know what to do. Many a times even the doctors are doctors counsel that there's no treatment possible and the kids go home. Even the lay public feels so. So, for an example, just to cite an example, on 4th of February, the World's Cancer Day celebrated. So one of the very prominent media houses here called me up and asked me about childhood cancer outcomes, and I told them, and they asked me to share a couple of survivors' details. So with the permission of the family, we gave the numbers of a couple of survivors for that, so that they could interact directly and release a positive media report. Subsequently, half an hour later, the journalist calls me back and saying, "But madam, the numbers you have shared is all blood cancer patients, and my editor says blood cancer there is no survival in blood cancer. So how can you how can you share details of disease patients who have apparently been cured? There is no survival." So that is the kind of misinformation that is there out in the community, and I don't think the paper ran that news item also. So this is the hardcore reality that we face, and we have to kind of work towards changing every single obstacle in the path to get to cure. Even when somebody really refers a patient, there is poor access to healthcare, there's poor referral pathways. Unlike in the US or the UK, where there is and in Australia, many developed economies have a very good referral pathway, so that the patient, wherever the patient is reaching, that system automatically refers the child to a higher center. Here, there is no system like that. So if the patient wants to go, they will go. If they want to go, they have a choice of going to whichever center they want to go. So because of all this, there are a lot of issues created a lot of money is wasted often by the time they reach a center which is capable to diagnose and treat. There is and on top of all this, there is gender bias, there is poverty, and many a times the family thinks, and this is again a very stark reality, that when they travel say 100 or 200 kilometers away to come and treat in a center, the family, the often the breadwinner will say, of the family will say, okay, how do I stay here and treat for 6 months? Because if I don't work every single day, who will feed the rest of my family? So this is a very big reality that we face. So even if we provide free access to treatment and even food for the child, food for the caretaker, even then the entire the rest of the family, a joint family, might be dependent on the primary caregiver, and so that becomes a big issue in continuing care for these children. Then many times centers, even medical colleges, do not have facilities for diagnosis or treatment, so they get referred. And the one that I've highlighted in red is preventable deaths. So toxicity of treatment, especially drug resistant organisms, sepsis due to MDR organisms, is a big reality again, and this I think has increased over the years. 10 years back, treating cancer was easier. On the same protocol, treating cancer now is more difficult because there are so many organisms out there, and most of them are drug resistant. And that actually is probably the biggest hindrance currently once a child reaches the center. Now, to get them through the treatment without losing the child to toxicity is becoming increasingly difficult. And finally, late effects and abandonment. And abandonment, 10 to 12 percentage of children still abandon treatment in this part of the world because they do not have, they feel that there is cancer is not something that is treatable. When they lose hair or when they start looking different, the minute you talk to them about say enucleation in retinoblastoma or amputation in an osteosarcoma, they just run away. They will rather not treat the disease and lose the child than lose a limb. So that's again one big issue that we face. Again, I'm sure brain tumors will be similar. They don't even reach a healthcare facility. The minute you hear the word brain tumor, they just go home and they are ready to lose the child rather than get to a curative treatment. So these are the issues that we see, and many a times there are these magical remedies being offered by quacks who are out there, again because of absence of a regulated system. In that, again, no referral pathway as such, we lose few patients every year to such magical remedies also. Next slide, please. So in this context, so this is few pictures of infections that we see. fungal infections as well as drug-resistant bacterial infections extremely common out there. Next slide, please. So this is probably what is actually accounting to that inequitability of care that we have been talking about. And that is probably why, even though this region, the LMIC, see more than 80% of cancer, outcomes are poor, I'm sure, because of all these reasons. Next slide. So we actually do not have a denominator. As of now, there are cancer registries being run by the country's premier research organization, which is Indian Council for Medical Research. So that there are two ways of reporting childhood cancer. One is through population-based cancer registries, and second is through hospital-based cancer registries. So both of them are not specific for childhood cancer. It reports childhood cancer along with all the other cancers. But again, they are not wholesome because the huge population that we are catering to, it's impossible to have a 100% reporting, and these are just sample reporting that we have, and these are the numbers that we have to go by. Next slide, please. And these are like the prevalence according to the population based cancer registry reporting. Next slide. And these are the differences in numbers that we see. So when we have per 1,000 population, if you calculate, per million population, if you calculate the numbers of patients diagnosed, so there should not be any difference in terms of the region, right? So these are diseases which should not have that kind of a difference. But if you look at India, there is a huge difference in the gap of diagnosis, especially for CNS malignancies. Next slide. And again, gender bias in healthcare seeking, very, very important. So we face that very regularly. The minute you tell them for any advanced treatment, for example, bone marrow transplant, or they are not even willing to bring the sibling for HLA typing, just because at times if it's a girl child, they just abandon treatment and go back home. Next slide. So these are the barriers I presented, and what are the solutions that have emerged in the last few years that we have been trying to implement here. Is that for this late presentation, one main aspect is to start educating at every level. Everybody in the team has to speak the same language. So even inside the hospital, from every cadre of healthcare has been taught how to speak to the patient. The community, there are public health workers called ASHA workers. So we have been regularly involved in training of them so that they pick up children in the community and refer on time. In addition, the government of India has something called a universal healthcare, which is at present catering to probably around 20% of these children, but it's slowly improving. And that somehow, I think, with all the digital mission that is in place, will improve universal health reporting as well. Universal, something akin to a referral system that I talked about. It's not yet there, but I think it will improve. Strengthening of existing facilities have to be done. And abandonment, we have been trying to work hard by counseling of families as well as presenting survivor stories. So even today, there is a program on the occasion of International Childhood Cancer Day where we are highlighting survivors so that the message goes out into the community that these are the children who have come out of treatment despite all hardships, and this, if they can do it, even you can. And of course, treatment toxicity being handled by nursing care improvement and training and education of doctors. I think I'll stop here. I'm
Yep.
happy to take any questions and discuss this further. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for sharing this information. I think that was really, really interesting. I have to confess, I have to admit that I've learned something today. I was going to ask you, especially about what could be done. When I heard all the things that you shared at the very beginning, I was just, just biting my tongue because I wanted to ask you the questions about, okay, what could be done? And that you already shared some of the potential solutions. I want to give some time to Dr. Chan. I'm not sure about what you want to talk but I do have a question for you. Is about the work you're doing in your foundation. I mean, how is your foundation? What are the foundations supporting child cancer? So what are the initiatives that your foundation is taking over to support?
Yeah. So I mean, as mentioned by Nita, different country in Asia probably has a different problem. So, but talking about the major challenges for example, in our part in Hong Kong, is even Hong Kong is a relatively well-developed city, but the problem, the drug cost, the escalating drug cost is still a big issue. So if you talk about the latest advance in the children, in the treatment of child cancer, like the target therapy, the CAR T cell, all this, you are talking about like a sky high, kind of prices. So, and how can we lower down the drug costs and also the availability, as Lita mentioned. Many of the patients, they don't even have money for the basic kind of investigation and treatment. So how to do with it? So in Hong Kong, we have some kind of evolution. So first, I think in order to achieve a good goal, basically you have to have a win-win-win situation. So what are this win-win-win situation? We can classify the three party. The first one is the pharmaceuticals. The second one is the patients and the parents. And the third part are the provider, including the government and the medical healthcare worker. So in order to make the medical treatments available, including the diagnostic things available, is the drug company should have a reasonable, charging in Asian country. So can they really lower down the cost to a relatively affordable level? So and then for the government is how much money are they willing to contribute to the child cancer? So we all believe children are our future. So and then if many, just like Lita mentioned, leukemia is a very highly curable disease nowadays. So why should we abandon those children? So we should talk to the government. And so just across the Xinjiang River in Hong Kong, as Professor Garcia mentioned, I also work in the Hong Kong New Xinjiang Hospital, which is inside China. Every Monday, I just go there. So I can see the evolution in China as well, because they are a developed country. So what happened is they started to reimburse. The citizens actually contribute to this children catastrophic funding. And then the government will reimburse initially 60% and subsequently a higher proportion. But one thing is quite interesting is that initially they don't reimburse all the child cancer, but to those with a very highly curable one and a relatively affordable one. So with this initiative, I can see in 30 years, actually there's a drastic improvement in the survival, especially in those those cancer with good prognosis, like ALL. And a while ago, Lita mentioned about brain tumor, why the diagnosis is low, because they are all kept by adult neurosurgeon in China. I think in India, probably that's the case. And then their understanding is towards adult brain tumor, because 85% of the adult brain tumor are high-grade astrocytoma or glioma, which is incurable. So if your mindset is like this, it's very bad for the patient. So I think the government has to have organized. So this one, the Oncodaily, is a very good platform for the Asian pediatric oncologists to come together. And we can produce some information material that we can present to the different government.
I have a question. This is curiosity, and is there any information available about the number of foundations in your country dedicated to support pediatric cancer research?
Okay, so in fact we have a Hong Kong Childhood Cancer Foundation, Children Cancer Foundation, that was found in the 80s. Usually these are from the cancer patients' parents. So they support the treatments and also the research, as you mentioned.
Okay, but we're talking about one foundation. Is that you said there is one foundation in Hong Kong dedicated to support pediatric cancer research?
It's one specific foundation, and there was a time, but that one gradually phase off, called the Childhood Catastrophic Fund, also cater. So initially there are some different foundation, and there's also, I think, in many Asian countries that we also have is the Ronald McDonald House. So I mean, even it's not actually for treatment, but they provide a sanitary environment for the poor patient as a midway home. So as Little mentioned, a lot of time children after treatment may be immunocompromised. They may suffer from serious infection. So this kind of Donald McDonald House can provide, some kind of sanctuary site for these patients as a midway home, provide stem cell.
I know very well the Ronald McDonald House because when my personal story is that my son was diagnosed of a high risk medulloblastoma brain cancer, and then we were living in Spain, and then we had to move to the US for better expertise to save his life, and then we stayed for 60 days.
Yeah,
at the Ronald McDonald House at Boston, and they treat us, it's like a home away from home resource, which is awesome.
Yeah.
I really love this organization. Just one question before we go. I'd like to get from you, if it's possible, short statements, just like very short, I would say 1 minute for each of you. What are, in your opinion, the key priorities and areas of focus for future research on pediatric cancer? I know it's a very wide question, but can you just share kind of just one idea that comes to your mind about?
Okay, so if you only give me 1 minute, my personal belief is in the future cancer treatment, maybe 100% will have to lean on immunotherapy because that's the basic. But many people understand immunotherapy, immune checkpoint inhibitor, CAR T cell, but actually immunotherapy is a whole concept. So you have monoclonal antibody, and even bone marrow transplant is immunotherapy. So the cellular therapy are mostly immunotherapy. So how we cut the cost for the immunotherapy of different type of immunotherapy will be our answer. Because immunotherapy, like now leukemia, can we start with, bispecific antibody with low intensity chemo, or even cellular therapy, so we can minimize chemo. So this is the direction that we have to go to. And then I think even in solid tumor, immunotherapy will be the key. So we should, if in case we raise funding, we should raise funding to support immunotherapy.
Okay. Nita, is that?
Yeah, surprisingly, I agree with you. And so I think for childhood cancer treatment on the whole, we should all be working with the government closely, because I think the maximum funding is finally going to come from the government, with government support only. Government has the capability of any country, has the capability to bring organizations together, bring people together, build networks, which will help. So that is an area where we should focus. Second, definitely a risk adapted treatment for every region, and in that risk adaptation, I think immunotherapy plays a big role. Professor Chan, like with the way the diseases where we are treating with targeted treatment, it's become so much easier over the years to treat such children. So get a relapsed childhood leukemia into remission with immunotherapy is so much easier than getting them with conventional treatment. So if there is access to these drugs for these patients at costs which they can afford, of course that will be the way forward. And all the efforts should be directed towards collaborative research and building new discovering molecules and bringing these molecules to the reach of these children. And thank you.
All right. Quick, follow-up statement with Litas, because there's something called a biosimilar. So we should, make it faster in the regulatory process. So, and cheaper.
Yeah, that's definitely a good ending for the discussion. Thank you so much, both of you, for joining today. I remind the audience that we are doing this because we want to just educate and share the truth about the child cancer, but also want to raise funds to support and immediate trial. We want to open to test a compound for different type of pediatric indications. So if you have the chance to support pediatric cancer research, today is the day. So donate, and see you in the next session. Thank you so much.
250 children die every day from cancer across the globe. After accidents, cancer is the leading cause of death in children in developed countries. And yet, there are only 7 drugs approved for use in pediatric cancer versus over 200 for adults. Until now.
My friend Cesar and I founded Oncoheroes Biosciences after both of our families were deeply affected by child cancer. He lost his daughter to metastatic cancer at the age of 4, and my son is a brain cancer survivor dealing with a lot of side effects because of the toxicity of the treatments that he got. We realized that despite of the efforts in academic research, there was a lack of leadership on the industry, so we decided to launch Oncoheroes Biosciences, which is the only one company in the world 100% focused on developing new drugs for pediatric cancer. At Oncoheroes, we have 3 potential new drugs to treat up to 8 different types of pediatric cancers. The FDA allowed us last September to open 2 trials, but the only thing that prevents us right now to go ahead is funding.
Allie is my daughter, who I always described as loving, kind, and feisty. She was diagnosed at age 11 with alveolar rhabdomyosarcoma. She was stage 4 at diagnosis. And over the 5 years, she relapsed 6 times. She passed away at age 16. On November 13th, 2023. Allie and I met Oncoheroes a couple of years ago, and we felt a pretty strong connection with them. Allie and I both felt that Oncoheroes will really be the company that develops these cancer trials that these kids need. So I made a promise to continue her fight, make her proud for all the kids that come after her.
We need your help to give kids a cancer-free future. We can do this together. Welcome everyone again to the next session. We're going into the 3rd hour of the Oncothon. This is a 24 hours marathon organized by Oncodaily with a goal to raise funds for supporting a clinical trial to be testing a compound for 5 different types of pediatric indications. I'm very pleased to welcome the next guest to the session. Mr. I would say, A.K.T. Rao is Dean of the Medical School in Australia, Dean of the MS Ramaya Medical College in India. And then we have also another guest. I'm not sure about pronouncing the name, so I'm sorry about if I'm doing it wrong. So Sheksek Saikan Batmung, she is the CEO of the National Cancer Council of Mongolia. So welcome both of you to this session. I believe that Dr. Rao, you want to share some slides with the audience and go first, if you're going to go first? Yeah.
Thank you, Ricardo. I wanted to discuss and focus on research and the research in pediatric oncology, because I feel that wherever we are today in pediatric oncology is because of the research which has gone on before us and the research which is going to come ahead of us. And, we are also tied up in looking after our patients, looking after every little bit of their clinical details, that we fail often to understand that it is actually research which is going to lead the way forward. So many new things have happened in this world, in the world of pediatric oncology, and it's all because of research. And even when you're looking after your patients and giving them your very best clinically, it is still possible to do research. And this research has to be meaningful. I had this small incident in our pediatric oncology unit about 15 years ago. It's now 15 years, so it's quite safe to tell you about it. And I would like to share this with you and also with my younger colleagues who would probably understand how difficult it is to do research. But if you stick at it, you're going to change many things in this not so tidy world. So can I have the first slide, please? So why research? And the answer is obvious. It's there on the slide. More and more children are surviving cancer, and this certainly would not have been possible without research. Next slide, please. There are pitfalls in research. All of us know that. There are lack of volunteers, lack of funding, lack of time, lack of commitment. These are the usual reasons why doing research is so difficult. But sometimes it comes at a great personal cost. And sometimes it comes with a lot of risks. So can I have the next slide? So I'd like to tell you a story. It happened in our pediatric hematology oncology unit 15 years ago. My unit is located in a very small town on the west coast of India. It's called Mangalore. And it's a beautiful little town, fully surrounded with hills and dales. And in this pediatric oncology unit, we came across an anomaly. Can I have the next slide? Now, if you look at the statistics on the right, this is what the distribution of pediatric cancers worldwide and in India is more or less about the same. About 30% of all pediatric malignancies are hematological. But when we saw our studies, we found that almost 90% of the children presenting to our unit were leukemias. And we wondered why. And when we went in a little further and deeper into this, we came to understanding that almost 95% of our cases came from what we'd like to call as ground zero, which, if you look at this slide here, is a small area, about 30 kilometers in breadth and about 50 kilometers in length, about 1,500 square kilometers. And when we went further to see what was the kind of terrain in that area, we found that it was comprised mainly of cashew plantations. You must be knowing the cashew fruit. It's a nut which is it's quite common all over the world, but this is the place where you get the best cashews probably in the subcontinent. So we discovered that this was a plantation with lots of cashew trees. And can I have the next slide? And if you look at this is the cashew fruit, which has the nut below it. And it's a real luscious looking fruit. If you bite on it and a little bit of it falls on your pants, it remains there for the rest of the pants life. And this luscious fruit attracts a lot of bugs. The most dangerous of which is this Helopeltis antoni, or also called the tea mosquito bug, which has a long proboscis, and it bores right in through the fruit and destroys the fruit. This is a particularly a resistant bug. It is resistant to lots of the insecticides which are presently in use. Can I have the next slide? But there was one particular insecticide, which I'm not going to name now, which was highly effective against this bug. This insecticide was very, very popular in that area. It was a broad spectrum contact insecticide. It was highly effective against Helopeltis antoni. There was a very low incidence of insect resistance to this insecticide. It was freely available and easy to administer. It was relatively cheap, and it was supposedly safer than others for all the forms of life. So it was being used intensively here, and there was some concerns raised about many issues relating to this insecticide. Can I have the next slide, please? And there were many reports which came of an acute toxicity with the insecticide, with accidental ingestion or suicidal intent. There were neurological manifestations. There was respiratory distress. There was respiratory complications, and it involved almost all other organs: the heart, the liver, and the kidney. And chronic exposure through water and food. It was supposed to be a mutagen, a xenestrogen, a teratogen, and an immune suppressant. But till that time, there was no paper which suggested carcinogenesis in human beings. There were some odd papers which had come out about testicular cancers in mice and in other mammals, but there was nothing about the human being. So can I have the next slide, please? So we wanted to find out whether, and there was a lot of hue and cry about this insecticide at that time. So we wanted to find out whether there was any role of this insecticide in the skewed incidence of pediatric malignancies which were presenting to our particular unit. So we thought we would do a very simple study. That's what we thought, but it didn't turn out to be very simple. And can I have the next slide? We did this study. 26 children with hematological malignancies and 26 age-matched children without hematological malignancies were controlled. It extended over a period of 2 years, and we did the estimation of the insecticide, including its isomers and metabolites, in the bone marrow of these children by gas chromatography and mass spectroscopy. We also identified where each of these children came from in that particular area, and we did a statistical analysis. Can I have the next slide, please? So the demographics were equal in both test and control groups. There was the p-values were these p-values were normal, so they were much above significance. So there was no difference between the test and the control cohort. Can I have the next slide, please? But when we saw the results, this is what we found: that there were 7 children tested positive for this pesticide. 6 of them were in the test group, that is the ones with the hematological malignancies, and 1 was in the control group. The p-value was 0.042, which was significant, and the odds ratio was 7.5. Statistically, there was a significant risk of hematological malignancies in children with insecticide in their bone marrow. That is what we found. Can I have the next slide, please? And when we looked at the residence of these children, all 7 children testing positive resided well within the sprayed areas. There was no child who tested positive for the insecticide from non-sprayed areas. So it obviously means that the insecticide had somehow entered the food chain and had gone deep into the body. That particular insecticide was lipophilic. It was particularly useful. It would go in and adhere to the fatty substances in the body. The bone marrow is, as you know, fatty. So that's what we thought, that you would have lots of this pesticide in the bone marrow. And that's what we found, that it was there in the, and unfortunate part of this insecticide was that they have a half-life of between 80 to 200 years. So there was a little bit of a problem there. Can I have the next slide? So after a lot of consideration, we decided to publish this paper. It came out in Indian Pediatrics in March 2012. We really thought whether it would be worthwhile presenting this paper or not. But anyway, we were young then, so we took it and we published it. And can I have the next slide? And that's when the problem started. We had published it with disclaimers. It was the first ever study done on bone marrow. We had nothing to compare with other studies. There were no nomograms or safety levels. Even though 7 children who had pesticide in the bone marrow, we didn't know whether that was a normal occurrence or not. We certainly mentioned in the article that it was only an association and not a causal relationship. We had only a 26 number. We hadn't done any microarray cytogenetic studies to establish causation. Whatever it was, we didn't do anything. And there was no funding from anybody for this study. It was just a university research grant, which one of my postgraduate students took on as a thesis topic. But we had hit a raw nerve. Can I have the next slide, please? Because 2 days after this was published, the harassment started. There was persistent threats and intimidation. There was harassment at the workplace, allegations and insinuations of financial gains. There was allegations of scientific fraud. There was complaints to authorities regarding our moral turpitude. And there were demands to strike us off the professional bodies and registers. And this carried on for 2 long years. The reason I'm bringing this out is because research doesn't come easy. When you do something, all good intentions, it doesn't come easy. Anyway, we were lucky. After 2 years, can I have the next slide, please? There was a resolution.